1, 2, 1, 2. God, I'm on my knees again. God, I'm begging, please again. I need you. Oh, I need you. Walking down the stairs of roads, hard for the thirsty soul. I need you. Oh, I need you. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips, like the sound of symphonies in my ears. It's like holy water on my skin. Dead and walking, slave to sin, one and I'll be born again. I need you. Oh God, I need you. Take me to the riverside, take me under paradise. I need you. Oh God, I need you. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips, like the sound of symphonies in my ears. It's like holy water on my skin. I don't want to abuse your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really makes me want to change. I don't want to abuse your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really makes me want to change. I don't want to abuse your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really makes me want to change. I don't want to abuse your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really makes me want to change. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips, like the sound of symphonies in my ears. It's like holy water, your forgiveness. It's like sweet, sweet honey on my lips, like the sound of symphonies in my ears. It's like holy water on my skin. It's like holy water on my skin. It's like holy water.
The Magi had a dream. They dreamt of a Messiah. They dreamt of just rulers. They dreamt of a new day for all people. The Magi had a dream, and this dream led them to action. They journeyed to unknown places. They followed a star. They walked for days to get to Jesus. So may we be like the Magi. May our dreams inspire action. May we worship the one true God. Amen.
Here in this place space new light is streaming, now in the darkness vanished away. See in this space our fears and our dreamings, brought here to you in the light of this day. Gather us in the lost and forsaken, gather us in the blind and the lame. Call us to now and we shall awaken, we shall arise at the sound of your name. We are the young, our lives are a mystery. We are the old who yearn for your face. We have been sung throughout all of history, called to be light to the whole human race. Gather us in the rich and the haughty, gather us in the proud and the strong. Give us a heart so meek and so lowly, give us the courage to enter the song. Not in the dark of buildings confining, not in some heaven light years away, but here in this place the new light is shining. Now is the kingdom, now is the day. Gather us in and hold us forever, gather us in and make us your own. Gather us in, all peoples together, fire of love and our flesh and our bones. Gather us in and hold us forever, gather us in and make us your own. Gather us in, all peoples together, fire of love in our flesh and our bones.
Although we are not together in the sanctuary, it's our hope that the vision of the sanctuary, our music, our words, our ability to share in this time together will help us to feel connected. And so I invite you now to share perhaps how your week has been, special prayers for people around the world, anything that you wish to vocalize today in this body of faith.
May I ask for prayers for Bob? He, I think, was exposed to COVID this week, so we're hoping that he doesn't get it.
Prayers for Bob Messenger.
A prayer for all of us, and I thank God for giving us another year, 2021. That we should not take it for granted that every year is going to be a year for us, and 2021 is a year for us. However, I also thank God and pray that He gives us strength, this church, our pastor, everybody, that we continue to persevere in the light of what's happening right now. And a special prayer for my family overseas, as they are so uncomfortable with this new variant virus that has come. And so I pray for them and I pray for the world.
This is Barbara Pride. I pray for Lynn Smith. She's starting to get her strength back and that she continues to heal. She goes to see her doctor tomorrow, so I'll have more news after that.
This time I'll invite us to join in our affirmation of faith. We believe in God who came to this earth as a child, was born to unmarried teenage parents. We believe that this child grew up to heal the sick, serve the poor, dine with outcasts, welcome foreigners, wash the feet of sinners, offer second chances, and bless the children. And so we believe that Christmas is only the beginning. The dream does not end with a manger. The dream ends with God's promised day. So until all of God's children are home, we will follow the Magi's lead, walking, seeking, and looking up. May it be so, for this we believe. Amen.
I believe that the future is brighter. I believe in his promise for me. I believe that he's working and he's not done. The best is yet to come. I know he makes the anxious courageous. I know he makes the doubters believe. I know he won't stop working 'cause he's not done. The best is yet to come. I've got this hope in my soul. I know you won't let me go. Lord, I believe with your life in me, I've just begun. The best is yet to come. I believe that he gives second chances. I believe he works all things for good. I believe that he's working and he's not done. The best is yet to come. I've got this hope in my soul. I know you won't let me go. Lord, I believe with your life in me, I've just begun. I've got this hope in my soul. I know you won't let me go. Lord, I believe with your life in me, I've just begun. The best is yet to come. I've got my hopes high, you make my hopes rise. I've got my hopes high, you hold my whole life. I've got my hopes high, you make my hopes rise. I've got my hopes high, you hold my whole life. I've got my hopes high, you make my hopes rise. I've got my hopes high, you hold my whole life. I've got my hopes high, you make my hopes rise. I've got my hopes high, you make my whole life. I've got this hope in my soul. I know you won't let me go. Lord, I believe with your life in me, I've just begun. I've got this hope in my soul. I know you won't let me go. Lord, I believe with your life in me, I've just begun. The best is yet to come.
Good morning, everyone. The story today comes from Matthew 2:7-15. Then Herod privately summoned the wise men and determined from them when the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and look carefully for the child. When you find him,
Inform me so that I can go and worship him as well." After listening to the king, they left, and once again the star they saw when it rose led them until it stopped above the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they shouted joyfully. As they came into the house and saw the child with Mary his mother, they bowed down and worshiped him. They opened their treasure boxes and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. After being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they went back by another route to their own country. After they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to look for the child to kill him." Then he got up, took the child and his mother during the night and went to Egypt. He stayed there until Herod died. In this way, what was spoken by the Lord through the prophet was fulfilled. "I called my son out of Egypt." May God bless the reading of this word.
Please join us in singing "We Three Kings of Orient Are." We three kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we traverse afar. Field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy holy light. Born a king on Bethlehem's plain, gold I bring to crown him again, King forever, ceasing never, over us all to reign. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Glorious now, behold him arise, King and God and sacrifice. Alleluia, alleluia, pearls through earth and sky. Oh, star of wonder, star of night, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us through thy perfect light.
The title of our message this morning is God's Got Your Back. So it's the beginning of a new year. And usually on the first Sunday of the year, we talk about Epiphany, we talk about following the star, or maybe even about New Year's resolutions. And last year, it seemed like everyone was off the charts hopeful about going into 2020. It sounded magical and exciting and filled with possibility. Well, we all know how that turned out. I can't think of any other year when people were so anxious to finish the year. It seemed like people were looking for any way they could to punctuate the seemingly endless wait to end talk of pandemic and politics. Perhaps it will come as no surprise that this year I find myself drawn to watching survival movies and reading survival books. What is one to do during a year of a global pandemic but think of ways to survive? Not only did I watch an entire season of Survivor on Netflix, but I found myself rewatching many different survival movies, including one of my favorite Tom Hanks movies called The Terminal. If you have not seen this movie, it is produced and directed by Steven Spielberg and is based on a true story about a man who is stuck in the international terminal in JFK Airport for almost a year. Apparently, he left his own country, Krakosia, in Southeast Europe. And while he was flying, a war broke out in Krakosia. So when he landed, the immigration officials would not allow him to enter the US while his country was at war, but he couldn't go back to his country either. So effectively, he was stuck in the International Airport Lounge. This man, named Victor Kavorsky, had come to New York to fulfill a promise he made to his deceased father. He had been collecting signatures of every musician in his father's favorite group and wanted to get one last signature of a jazz musician, Benny Golson. This would complete his father's collection. Victor Kavorsky, played by Tom Hanks, is a kind, law-abiding, endearing man, and he is very persistent. He is told to wait in the international lounge for either the war in his country to end or for the US Immigration Department to let him into New York. So he waits and he waits, and days and weeks go by. Well, he has no place to sleep. So he camps out at Terminal 1, where he pushes the seats together to make a bed for himself. He runs out of money to buy food, so he begins to make sandwiches out of the crackers and ketchup in one of the fast food restaurants. He finds a creative way to collect quarters by rounding up all of the shopping carts and pushing them together and then getting quarters back. That allows him to get a taste of some real food for a minute. Then, after he can no longer do that, he bribes a cafeteria worker to give him airport food in exchange for information about a woman who he likes. Eventually, Victor succeeds in getting a job as a contractor in the airport, and he ends up making more money than the very immigration official who is trying to kick him out of the airport. Victor becomes a hero for all of the airport staff when he sticks up for a Russian man who's trying to get medicine for his pet goat. Throughout the whole movie, this man, Victor Kavorsky, is simply trying to survive, bathing in the airport bathroom, which is always popular, eating whatever food he can, and of course, sleeping at Terminal 1. He even develops a love interest, but can't take her anywhere outside of the airport for a date since he's not allowed to leave. The character of Victor Kavorsky is very endearing, which leads the audience to want him to survive. All he wants is to stay alive and get one last signature of a jazz musician for his deceased father. Is that too much to ask of life? The only opposition that he has is the one immigration officer who wants to see Victor break the law so that they can arrest him and kick him out of the airport. At the very end of the movie, Victor is able to visit New York City and obtain the autograph from Benny Golson. The entire staff at the international airport has come to love him, and so they follow him to the exit door, showering him with affection and gifts. By that time, he had survived the international airport lounge for more than 9 months. This movie is based on a true story about a man who lived in the international airport for 20 years in the real story. The real story is not as upbeat and positive, but it's still true. People can fall through bureaucratic cracks and get lost for months. If no one follows up, they're left to fend for themselves. Why am I watching movies, survival movies such as this? I think it's because I need to know that when life is upside down, some people still get a happy ending. I need to know that if we follow the rules and do all of the right things, that people can eventually get a job or pay their bills or survive a pandemic. For people like me and people like you who believe in God and try to be faithful, we need to know that when it seems like all is lost, God still has our back. Certainly, Mary and Joseph would have wanted to know this in today's reading. Joseph already had one dream in which the angel brought him some very disturbing news. News that his bride, Mary, was carrying a child that did not belong to him. So in spite of everything that he had been taught and all of the risks he had been taking, Joseph trusts God and does all of the right things. He takes care of Mary in spite of the controversy and risks to his own life. He takes her to Bethlehem for the census. He hosts the wise men and other visitors. And just as he is about to go home, he receives another dream. Joseph got another one of those nightmarish visits from an angel telling him to flee to Egypt because the king was trying to kill them. Poor Joseph. He must have had a serious sleep disorder. I don't know how he ever went to sleep. Every time he goes to sleep, he gets a visit from an angel with disturbing news. First, he hears that Mary is pregnant with a baby that doesn't belong to him. Now he hears that after all of his travels with said Mary and new baby, and he thinks things can't get any worse, he hears that King Herod wants to kill them. Now, just for a moment, let's remember that King Herod, previous to this, had had a nervous breakdown after killing his wife Marianne and his brother-in-law, who we thought were having an affair with one another. Well, it turns out they weren't having an affair. He was wrong, but he had already taken their lives. He also killed several women on his staff who happened to be slaves of his, and one of his sons out of jealousy. This is why it was said that it was safer to be one of King Herod's pigs than to be one of his family members. I would have to agree with that. This was the situation in which the Holy Family found themselves in today's reading. It was dangerous, life-threatening, and they were all alone. Some say that there was a Jewish community in Egypt for them to stay with, but we don't know that for sure. What we do know is that they had a long trip with a child and no definite work, food, money, or place to stay. They could not go home. They could not use a GPS to find their way, and they weren't able to text or call their families to inform them of their plans. They were told in the dream that God had their back and would take care of them. Now, most of us are God-loving people, but don't we want to know where we're going to sleep at night? Don't we want to know where our next meal will come from and if we can find work? We don't book trips without knowing where we're going to stay. We make plans, and we always know when we're coming home. Most of us wouldn't choose to travel with a small child, and we certainly wouldn't just leave our future or our family's future to chance. But this is what Joseph was told to do. He was told to go to Egypt, to wait for further instructions, and that God had their back. And I want to pause here to acknowledge the many people who are living through some of these very circumstances right now. There are people who left their country or their homes because it's not safe, or they don't have any future. Countless individuals and families know what it's like to be without a job, to be without money, or any way to pay for the needs of their family. Do I reference this movie, The Terminal, because I have no respect for the conditions of people who live like this? No, I reference this movie in order to remind us all that God does have our back, even when it doesn't feel like he does, or we're in dire circumstances. I reference this movie to encourage us to be courageous and resilient so that we might survive in times of trauma and tragedy. I want each of us to remember other difficult times that we have been through and to draw on the strength that we had to get through those times. I hope that we can reach deep and trust the same God who was with us then is always with us now. Recently, a dear friend gave me a book called Waking the Tiger. And this is a book which is about how people can survive and even thrive during trauma. An example is used of some children who were kidnapped from their school bus and stuffed in an underground vault. They're already scared to death that they may not survive. All of a sudden, one of the children leans on a piece of wood that gives way and the ground begins to collapse on them. Now they realize that they will all die if they can't get out. One of the students begins to dig his way to freedom. He is energized by the prospect of trying to escape and save all of their lives. He digs and digs and digs, and finally he reaches the surface. After all of the students escape and are evaluated to help them find out how they handled each of the traumas of being trapped underground, they are continually watched and observed. Peter, the student responsible for digging them out, was the least symptomatic of trauma. The specialists began to think that he had less trauma than the others because of his ability to keep moving and keep thinking of survival after the kidnap occurred. While the other students were in a fight, flight, or immobilization mode, he focused on survival and kept moving, and his movement gave him hope. My takeaway from this book is that people who have a vision of survival and keep doing things that demonstrate hope not only survive, but recover more quickly from difficult times. We have a long-standing history of overcoming obstacles of people of faith. And one of our greatest assets is the knowledge that God has our back. This is not like an insurance policy, or it doesn't keep us from having problems. I can certainly attest to that. But it is a promise that we're not alone and that we have a community of people who will walk with us through whatever hardship we experience in life. There's no way to quantify what each of us is experiencing during this virus. We've been isolated and unable to socialize or have human contact for almost 9 months. Many people have been laid off and are without basic resource for their family. And other people are just confined to small spaces with tons of people that they don't even maybe want to be with, and endured domestic conflict. Some are deprived of medical care due to fear of the virus, and many have endured sickness or the death of family and friends. And worst of all, there's no place even on earth to go to escape, since this crisis is global. For the first time in many of our lives, we feel like the world is not safe. And just when we think that things are starting to get better, we find out there's a second strain of the virus, or we hear like the vaccine doesn't guarantee that we won't transmit it, or that we won't get it again. Great. It's no wonder that I can't speak of frivolity or stars to look at in the sky and wondrous resolutions that we're all going to keep that seem to minimize the challenge that each of us face on a daily basis. As I think about some of the tools we have available in our spiritual toolkit, I want to revisit the book referenced earlier, Waking the Tiger. It seems that we carry tension in different parts of our body related to trauma or stress. If you notice, when you're upset, you may get a headache, lower back pain, rapid heartbeat, or distress in a part of your body that relates to trauma or unrest. And many times, if we're able to remember a traumatic event from the past, which we were able to overcome, we can retrace our steps in a way that will help us through the experience. When we couple the memory of an obstacle that we have overcome with specific things we did to cope, this can be helpful. Did we read a specific passage in the Bible to comfort ourselves, a passage to decrease fear or to inspire us? Did we speak with individuals who were particularly good listeners? Are we writers? Did we write out our experience in a kind of creative way? Are we people who like to clean our homes, and cleaning helps you to bring order to chaos? Some people exercise to feel that they can control at least their bodies if they can't control anything else. Anything that's a coping mechanism, I invite us to dig deeply into our spiritual toolkit with God, the God who has our back, and find those tools that will allow us to survive and thrive during this time. I turn to the Holy Family today because not only did they have courage and strength, but they believed that God had their back. They trusted God. And I pray this year that as we move forward, knowing that we are in relationship with a God who never lets us go, I pray that we will have an abundant year in 2021. Amen. I think the only announcement that we have this morning is just so many, many thanks to all who made the Christmas Eve service so inspiring and edifying, and also last night's cantata. So many thanks to everyone who participated in that. I don't know that we have any other announcements at this time, but I do believe that we have a celebration video.
Please join us in singing our final song today, Hark the Herald Angels Sing. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful, all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. With angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Christ by highest heaven adore, Christ the everlasting Lord. Late in time behold him come, offspring of the virgin womb. Veiled in flesh the Godhead see, veiled the incarnate deity, pleased with men to dwell. Jesus our Emmanuel. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace, hail the Son of Righteousness. Light and life to all he bring, risen with healing in his wings. Mild he lays his glory by, born that men no more may die, born to raise the sons of earth, born to give them second birth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King.
As we prepare to close, I would want to invite you to take note that the link to our virtual coffee hour, which is hosted by Lawrence Clark, one of our newest members, is in the chat for you, and it'll be available as soon as the service is over. And then for now, I just want to offer a prayer for each of us this week, that we will be healthy, that we will be peace abiding, and continue to feel God's love no matter what's happening. I pray that we can feel that. So go in peace and be of peace. Amen.